My name is Raquel Moreno. I'm 29. If you ever want to know where you stand with family, don't bother asking them what they think of you. Just ask to borrow a hammer. If they hand it over with a smile, you're probably safe. If they pause, sigh, and remind you about that one time they gave you a roof over your head, even though you're just trying to hang a shelf. Welcome to my life. When my parents died, I was 15 and suddenly surplus. That's what it felt like anyway. One day I had a home that smelled like motor oil and cinnamon toast. The next day I had a garbage bag of clothes, a dusty box of my dad's tools, and exactly 0 adults who knew how to talk to a grieving teenage girl. Aunt June stepped in, or more accurately, she stepped around me. Of course you can stay here, she'd told the social worker, hand on heart like she was auditioning for sainthood. Family takes care of family. What she really meant was, you can survive in our basement. It had a concrete floor and exposed pipes that dripped at random intervals. The mattress looked like it had survived both a raccoon attack and a flood. There was a single bare bulb dangling from the ceiling and a tiny window high up on the wall that showed exactly one thing: dirt. But it was technically a roof, and every week, without fail, June reminded me, "Some kids don't get anything, Raquel. You should be grateful we even let you stay here." Meanwhile, upstairs, her son Darren had a fully carpeted bedroom with mood lighting strips, surround sound, and a queen-size bed that he complained about because it wasn't memory foam. We were both teenagers, but we lived on different planets. For Darren's 17th birthday, he got driving lessons and a brand new sedan with a bow on it. For mine, I got a happy birthday card taped to the laundry machine with a $5 McDonald's gift card inside. Later, I found out it was one of those expired promo cards from a soda cup. I still said thank you. That's the awful part. You can get used to crumbs when people keep telling you it's a feast. I didn't have the luxury of sulking. I repainted the basement myself with some clearance paint from the hardware store, dragged in a side table someone left on the curb, and found a small TV at a pawn shop. I mounted it on a shelf I built from cinder blocks. It was prison chic, but it was mine. In a house where everything else reminded me I didn't belong, that little corner of concrete and paint felt like the only place I could breathe. At school, I kept my head down. Darren floated through like he had his own laugh track. He was the type who cheated off my homework and then joked about how he just vibes his way through life. Teachers loved him. He knew how to flash a smile, make a joke, flirt with the world. My guidance counselor once told me, "You're very practical, Raquel," which sounded less like a compliment and more like a polite way of saying, "You're not going anywhere special, but you'll probably show up on time." By senior year, I was working part-time at a local hardware store, cleaning tools, taking stock, listening politely to guys explain drills to me like I hadn't just restocked the entire power tool aisle. I saved every cent. Darren got to focus on his future. I had to build mine from leftover scraps. The first big thing I bought for myself after I finally moved out at 22 wasn't a vacation or clothes. It was a tool chest. Not some flimsy plastic thing either. It was a giant, industrial-grade rolling tool chest I'd seen rusting away in the back of the store. Heavy steel, deep drawers, wheels that squeaked when you pushed it. Everyone else ignored it. I fell in love. I negotiated with my boss to buy it cheap. Spent nights scrubbing grease off it, oiling the wheels, polishing the metal until I could see my reflection in it. It wasn't just steel and drawers. It was proof. Proof that I could build something slowly and stubbornly with my own 2 hands, even if nobody thought I'd ever be more than the sad girl in the basement. I moved into a tiny fixer-upper. Think cracked linoleum, peeling wallpaper, faucets that made suspicious noises, and started side hustling. HVAC work, basic plumbing, drywall patch jobs, word spread. By 25, I had regular weekend gigs and a client list made up of elderly neighbors, single moms, and people who just wanted someone who'd show up when they said they would. Darren, still living at home, was busy trying out personalities. DJ, crypto expert, TikTok food reviewer. Each phase lasted about 5 minutes. Aunt June funded every failed dream. "At least he's trying," she'd shrug. Meanwhile, if I ever declined Sunday dinner because I had a job booked, I was selfish and too focused on money. One time their garbage disposal broke. I fixed it in 10 minutes. June handed me a cold slice of pizza and said, "You're so handy. It's a shame you never got a degree." As if degrees were passed out for free behind the house alongside the moldy basement mattress. Still, I didn't argue. I kept my distance, didn't start fights, Let them think I was the stoic, unbothered workhorse, the basement girl who got lucky. I stored my tool chest in June's garage just for a bit while I was renovating my place. She'd said, "Sure, leave it there. It's not in the way." I took her at her word. That was my first mistake. My second mistake came last fall when I did something unthinkable. I finally asked for something back. Not a favor, not charity, just a return of something that was already mine. It started with a text, 5 words. "Hey, cuz, you got Venmo?" "Darren, of course." I hadn't heard from him in weeks. When his name popped up, my first thought wasn't, "Oh, he misses me." It was, "What broke this time?" "Yeah," I replied, "why?" 3 dots blinked, disappeared, blinked again. He typed like he was solving a math problem instead of forming a sentence. Finally, "Need a small favor. Car's acting up. Gonna lose my delivery job if I can't fix it. Need like 2K, just till next month." No, "How are you?" No, "Congrats on the house." Just straight into my wallet. I read it twice, then a third time. Not because I didn't understand, but because I did. This wasn't the first time Darren needed something. Last year, it was $400 for rent, which turned out to be bottle service on his Instagram. Before that, it was $150 for textbooks during his brief "I'm totally going back to school" phase. Still, that soft voice in my brain, the one Aunt June installed years ago, whispered, "They gave you a roof. They took you in. You owe them." I took a breath and called him. Maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. He answered like we were best friends. "Rack, you're a lifesaver, seriously." "Slow down," I said. "What's going on?" He launched into a dramatic monologue about his car, about a mechanic, about how if he didn't fix it ASAP, his whole life would fall apart. He'd pay me back next month, swear on my life. I asked for the mechanic's name. Shop's closed right now, but I got the quote. Hang on." There was some muffled tapping, like he was wrestling a calculator. "It's like 170, I rounded." Convenient. I told him I'd think about it and hung up. 10 minutes later, Aunt June called. "Raquel," she sighed, using the tone reserved for funerals and overdue favors. "You know Darren wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious." I didn't say anything. "He's trying to build something for himself," she went on. "We all struggle." "We all do," I said. I did, without asking anyone for handouts. There was a pause, then she dropped the guilt bomb. "We gave you a home when you had nothing." "I don't ask for thanks, Raquel, but don't you think this is your chance to give back a little?" Give back. As if that damp basement had been a luxury resort instead of the legal minimum to avoid neglect charges. I hesitated. That tiny, quiet moment of doubt is what I regret the most. "Fine," I said finally. "I'll send it. Just make sure he actually fixes the car." "Of course, sweetheart," she said, instantly sweet again. "You're a good girl." I wasn't a girl anymore, but to her, I'd always be the teenager mopping up after Darren's parties in the basement. I sent the money. No contract, no interest. Just a Venmo transfer with a note. Loan. Pay back by end of next month. He heart reacted it. Then nothing. 1 month passed, then 2, then 4.5. During that time, I kept busy. I worked extra gigs, installed garage doors, rewired ceiling fans. My boyfriend joked that I spent more time with my drill than I did with him. I told him my drill didn't talk back. Every time I thought about that $2,000, I told myself, it's fine. He'll pay you back. Don't be the money-obsessed one. You know how the family talks. Finally, one night, staring at my bank app and the quiet little hole where those $2,000 used to be, I caved. I sent a simple text. "Hey Darren, just checking in. Think you can start sending some of that loan back? Even $100 a week helps." Read. No reply. I gave it a day, then another. The next morning, I tried again. Seriously, it's been months. I could really use that money back. 10 minutes later, my screen lit up. "Yo, chill. Why you acting like this is a big deal?" I stared at the message until my hands started to shake. Not with rage. With that specific bitter feeling you get when someone tries to convince you that asking for what's yours makes you the problem. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't about $2,000 anymore. It was about where I really stood with them. I didn't answer Darren's message. Not immediately. I sat there on the edge of my sofa, staring at those words. Why you acting like this is a big deal? And something inside me tightened. Not anger, not sadness. Just that familiar, hollow snap you feel when someone proves, without hesitation, how little they think of you. I dialed Aunt June. She answered with a sigh so dramatic it could have powered a wind turbine. "Raquel, please don't tell me this is about Darren again." I ignored the accusation hidden in that again. He's not paying me back, I said, keeping my tone calm. And now he's acting like I'm the unreasonable one. You are being unreasonable, she snapped before I even finished. You were never like this before. Before I stopped making myself small for them? Before I stopped pretending gratitude was a personality? I said nothing, letting her talk. You have so much now, she went on. Darren's had a rough year. I let out a breath. He has a rough year every time I send him money. That shut her up for a beat, but only a beat. Raquel, she said, sliding into her favorite guilt-soaked tone, we gave you a home when you had nothing. I never asked for thanks, not once, but don't you think this is your chance to give back a little? Give back. She said that like I'd spent the last decade lounging in luxury at her expense instead of working myself ragged while living in a moldy basement furnished with pity. I closed my eyes. I'd hear this argument until I died, wouldn't I? I finally said, fine. If you want this settled, let me come get my tool chest from the garage. We'll call the loan even. Silence, a thick one. Then June's voice strained. The red one? Yeah, mine. Well, she hesitated. Darren's been using it. My jaw flexed. Using it? I repeated slowly. He started a side hustle, she said proudly. Fixing bikes. He's very talented, Raquel. He's been using your tools every day. So at this point, it's sort of part of his setup. I laughed, and there was no humor in it. He's been using my tools, I said, while owing me $2,000. And you think I shouldn't take them back? You left it here for months, she said defensively. Storage isn't free. Storage. For something they never asked permission to use. So I owe you storage fees, I said, for my own tools being used for Darren's business. You're twisting things, she snapped. We gave you everything. I exhaled sharply. I worked 2 jobs in high school. I bought my own school supplies. We let you stay here. In the basement, June, I said, with the mattress that smelled like mildew and despair. She hung up. That told me all I needed to know. So I made a plan, a simple one. Knock, walk in, roll out my tool chest, leave. No drama. But I should have known better. When I pulled up to June's house Saturday afternoon, the garage door was wide open, and some thumping EDM nonsense blasted out like the rave from hell. Inside, Darren was sitting shirtless on the floor, hands greasy, legs crossed next to my chest, my beautiful industrial tool chest. Except now it was covered in tacky motivational stickers. Grind now, shine later. Success is a mindset. Hustle mode, on. If bad decisions had a decor style, it was this. He looked up, grinning like he thought I'd come to applaud him. Yo, Rack, you didn't say you were stopping by. You don't need an RSVP to claim your own property, I said. I'm here for my tool chest. His grin collapsed. What do you mean, your tool chest? The one you've been using for your bike-fixing empire, I said, gesturing at the mess around him. He blinked. I thought you wanted to store it here. I did, temporarily, not permanently. He stood, wiping his hands on his shorts. Come on, Rack. I've been using this every day. You can't just take it. You owe me $2,000, I said, and you gaslit me when I asked for it back. So yes, I can take it. He scoffed. You act like you're a bank. It's family. No, I corrected. Banks charge interest. I didn't. He stepped in front of the chest. You're not taking it. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just turned around, walked back to my car, and sent a text. Hey, you still want that tool chest? Marcus replied instantly. On my way. 10 minutes later, a silver pickup with a hydraulic lift pulled up to the curb. Marcus hopped out, sunglasses on, energy radiating. Let's do this. I walked him to the garage and pointed at the chest. That one. Marcus nodded, like he was tagging a prize goat at an auction. Darren came running out. Yo, what are you doing? Retrieving my property, I said simply. You can't sell that, he screamed. I've been using it. It's not yours to use. I customized it, he yelled, pointing at the stickers. Marcus looked at him. Those don't increase the value, kid. Darren turned beet red. You're screwing me over, Raquel. No, I said. I'm finally treating you the same way you treat me. Marcus loaded the chest onto the lift, ran the straps, secured everything like a seasoned pro. He handed me an envelope, crisp, thick, heavy. $4,000. Cash. As we were leaving, Aunt June burst out the front door wearing a robe and flip-flops, hair frizzed like she'd run through a wind tunnel. What is this? She shrieked. You're selling things from my garage? I'm selling something from my tool chest, I said, on your lawn. This is betrayal. I smiled at her. Finally from a place of strength. No, June, this is business. I got in the truck beside Marcus. We drove away. The next morning, my phone exploded. First, Aaron, you sold it? For real? Without telling me? That chest was worth thousands. Then June, we cannot believe you would sell that without giving us a heads up. At the very least, you owe us $2,000. Half. That's fair. Fair. Always fair when it benefited them. I sent one reply. I'll give you $2,000 right after Darren pays back the $2,000 he owes me. June responded instantly. So petty. You used to be humble. Humble. Translation. Easy to manipulate. That afternoon, I opened my laptop, pulled $39 from the envelope Marcus gave me, and ordered the brightest, cheapest, tackiest red tool bag I could find. I shipped it directly to June's house with a little handwritten note. Here's your half, Raquel. 2 days later, Amazon confirmed the delivery. Signed for by Darren. I didn't even need to wait to know the meltdown was coming. The meltdown didn't take long. At 2:14 p.m., my phone buzzed once. Then again. Then nonstop, like a slot machine paying out rage instead of coins. First Darren. You think you're funny? A tool bag? You're seriously unstable, Rack. Then June. Was that supposed to be a joke? You're humiliating us. We stored that chest out of love. Love. Interesting word choice for people who charge me emotional rent for breathing their air. I didn't reply. Not to any of it. I sat on the floor of my little fixer-upper, the envelope of $4,000 sitting beside my knee, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt something surprising. Relief, not joy, not triumph. Just a quiet, deep relief. Like I had finally opened a window in a house that always smelled like mold. And then, out of nowhere, a thought hit me. A stupid little dream I'd shelved years ago. A dream I never believed I'd actually reach. A garage. Not just any garage, the old rusted commercial one I drove by every morning on my way to jobs. 2 bays, ugly blue paint. The for sale sign had been taped over so many times it looked like a bruise. I'd asked the owner once what he wanted for it. He said $25,000 down. I said I'll think about it, which was polite code for I have $87 in a half-empty gas tank. But now I had $4,000. Not enough, but enough to make the bank look twice at my loan application. Enough to show I was serious. Enough to make something of my own. Something no one could guilt, steal, or store. I dialed the owner. Still selling the place? I asked. He hesitated. Then, you serious this time? I looked at the envelope, at the money I earned, not through inheritance or pity, but through boundaries finally enforced. Dead serious, I said. He invited me to meet him that afternoon. Within 3 hours, I was standing inside that dusty garage, the scent of oil, rust, and old ambition hanging in the air. The concrete was cracked. The ceiling needed patching. But the bones were strong. I felt something tighten in my chest, something like hope. We shook hands. I left with a signed agreement and a date to finalize paperwork. I didn't tell June, or Darren, or anyone in the family. I told exactly 2 people. Marcus, who grinned like a proud uncle, and my boyfriend, who pulled me into a hug and whispered, "You're building a life they can't touch." For the next few days, everything went quiet, suspiciously quiet. No texts, no guilt trips, no dramatic voicemails. And then, a notification popped up on my phone. New message from Aunt June. Family Unity Dinner, invitation. I stared at the screen. Family Unity Dinner. 3 words that suddenly felt like threats. The message itself was dripping with sugar. Let's put the past behind us and come together. It's time we act like family again. I laughed out loud. Alone in my kitchen. A real, disbelieving laugh. Act like family? Did she mean like when I slept in the basement with exposed pipes and a dying mattress? Like when Darren used my tools and my money but never his manners? Like when they called me ungrateful for wanting my loan repaid? Still laughing, I clicked maybe, just to mess with their head count. And then I forgot all about it. On the night of the dinner, around 7:40 p.m., I was in my new garage, covered in sawdust and oil, installing a metal cabinet I'd found on clearance. The place still looked rough, but it was mine. My phone buzzed. A photo. Sent by my cousin Riley, the only neutral person in the entire family. It was a picture of June's long dining table, fancy plates, wine glasses, the whole setup. And next to Darren, an empty seat. Riley wrote, "They really thought you'd come." I smiled, a slow, quiet, deeply satisfying smile. I snapped a photo of my garage, 2 empty bays, fresh metal cabinets, my brand new tools lined up on a pegboard, a space absolutely no one but me had the keys to. I posted it to my story with one caption. Family dinners are overrated. Business is delicious. They saw it. I know they did because within 10 minutes. Darren posted a vague black screen with the words, "Fake people always fold." June posted a Bible verse about forgiveness that she clearly meant as a weapon. My cousin Beth reacted with 7 angry face emojis in a row. I didn't reply to any of it. Instead, I locked up my garage, turned off the lights, and walked out into the night air, feeling lighter than I had in years. 3 days passed. No calls, no texts, no guilt bombs. I should have known that meant something was coming. I was closing up the garage for the evening, dust in my hair, sweat drying on my shirt, when I heard a car creeping up the driveway. A Chrysler. Moving slowly. Too slowly. June. She stepped out wearing a beige cardigan and an expression like she was about to serve me with divine judgment. In her hands, a stack of envelopes. My stomach dropped. Not fear, not guilt, just the quiet realization that she was about to escalate in a way only someone who thinks they own you would. She stopped on the sidewalk, lips stiff, eyes glittering. "We should talk," she announced. "Face to face, since you're apparently too busy for your family now." I didn't say a single word. I just waited. She lifted the top envelope like it was a sacred scroll. "I brought the original paperwork from when you lived with us," she said, "just in case you forgot how much we did for you." And then she held it out for me to take. The moment I touched it, I knew. It wasn't a peace offering. It was a bill. I opened the envelope, expecting maybe a snarky letter, maybe some passive-aggressive, "we miss you." But what I found instead made my brain stall. It was an invoice, a literal handwritten invoice, neatly itemized, neatly insane. Room and board, 8 years, $43,200, emotional support, estimated value, $5,000, tool storage fees, retroactive, $1,800, family dinners, $2,500, total, $52,500. At the bottom, in June's cursive loops, "We are not asking for all of this. We are reasonable. We will settle for half, $26,250. I stared at the number like it might blink and reveal itself as a joke. It didn't. I lifted my eyes slowly. "June," I said, "you're billing me for existing in your basement?" She crossed her arms. "We supported you, fed you, gave you a home. We never asked for anything in return until now." I almost laughed. If I'd had even one sip of water, I would have spit it across the parking lot. "You charge me for emotional support?" I asked. She tilted her chin up. "Some would say we were like parents to you." Parents don't itemize their love in a spreadsheet. I flipped through more pages. Receipts she'd printed from 10 years ago. Food bills, utility statements, even toilet paper. Things she never paid extra for because I was there. Things social services already paid her for at the time, not that she would ever admit that. Then the kicker, Darren's handwritten note on the last page. "This does not include the pain I've suffered because of your actions." Pain, his pain. The same man who ignored me for months after borrowing my money, who used my tools without permission, who tried to guilt me when I took them back. My hands shook, not with fear, with disbelief. "June," I said slowly, "why are you doing this?" She gave me a tight smile, because she believed she had the moral high ground. "You've made it clear you don't care about family," she said. "So we're just making the arrangement clean and fair. If you don't want to contribute, well, we'll have to explore legal options." Legal options. She said it like she had me backed into a corner. "You're going to sue me," I said, "for sleeping on a concrete floor and fixing your appliances for free?" She ignored the sarcasm. "Darren relied on that tool chest for his business. You profited off something he depended on. It's only right he gets compensation." My laughter escaped, sharp, uncontrolled, relieved in a dark way. I turned toward my garage office, leaving June on the sidewalk with her invoices fluttering against her cardigan. Inside, I opened my drawer and grabbed a paper I printed months ago. Then I walked back out and handed it to her. "What's this?" she demanded. "The Venmo transfer," I said. $2,000, plus the text screenshots where Darren promised to pay it back next month, plus my note labeling it as a loan. She tried to push it back at me. I didn't take it. "You owe me money," I said, "not the other way around." Her jaw tightened. "That doesn't cancel out everything we did for you." "No," I said softly, "but it does cancel out your delusions." Her face went red. "And just so you're aware," I added casually, "this entire conversation is recorded on my security camera, the one above the garage door." I pointed up. June's eyes flicked to the blinking red light. "And if you take this legal," I said, "I will gladly bring the receipts. All of them. Including the ones showing I fixed your house a dozen times for free." For the first time in her life, she was speechless. She swallowed, looked at the envelopes, looked at me. We're just trying to keep the family together," she whispered. "No," I said. "You're trying to keep the family under your control." We stood there in the cool evening breeze, silence stretching thin like a thread ready to snap. June finally turned away, clutching her stack of invoices to her chest as if they were evidence in a crime she'd convinced herself I committed. She got into the Chrysler and drove off without another word. I didn't watch her leave. I stepped back into my garage and closed the metal door behind me. The sound echoed through the empty bays, loud and final. After she was gone, I leaned against my new workbench, exhaled slowly, and let the quiet settle. The kind of quiet you only hear when you're finally, fully done with a chapter of your life. The next morning, Darren posted a story. Real ones know snakes always hiss loudest before they get stepped on. Tagged nobody, meant for one person. I didn't even screenshot it. I didn't care enough to. Because while he tried to weaponize social media, I was meeting with a contractor to expand my garage into 3 bays. Business was booming. People trusted my work. Clients referred their friends. And none of them tried to charge me retroactive room and board fees. That night, after the expansion plans were signed, I walked into the back office of my garage with a cold drink, turned on the old fluorescent light, and pinned 3 papers to the corkboard wall. The printed Venmo transfer for $2,000, the $4,000 receipt from Marcus, and the deed to the property I now owned. 3 documents, 3 reminders, 3 milestones. I wrote 1 sentence on a yellow sticky note and pressed it beneath them. Never let guilt steal what you earned. I stepped back, looked at my wall, felt the weight of 10 years slide off my shoulders. For the first time since I was 15, I felt like I wasn't surviving anymore. I was building. And no one, not June, not Darren, not a single person wearing the mask of family, was ever going to take that from me again. 3 days passed after the invoice incident, and for the first time in weeks, my phone stayed silent. No guilt trip paragraphs, no passive-aggressive Bible verses, no memes about loyalty, just peace. The kind of peace you don't realize you've been starving for until you finally get a taste of it. I spent those days working, real work, not fixing free appliances for family, not cleaning up emotional messes, but building my own business with my own hands, under a roof I paid for, in a space that smelled like possibility instead of mildew. By midweek, though, silence cracked. At 9:03 a.m., I heard footsteps outside the garage, sharp, purposeful, annoyed. When I opened the door, Darren was standing there. No sunglasses this time, no messy entrepreneur vibe. Just a cheap hoodie, crossed arms, and a scowl that tried way too hard to look intimidating. "We need to talk," he said. I didn't invite him in. "Then talk," I said. He shifted like he expected a different script. "I came to apologize," he said finally. I raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" The word sounded allergic coming out. He ignored that. "I said some stuff, you said some stuff, whatever. I just want to put this behind us." He paused, then added way too casually, "Also, since things are going good for you now, maybe we could work together?" I stared at him. He continued, gaining confidence like a man proposing a business merger after showing up late to the meeting. "I could run social media for the shop, bring in clients, do marketing. I got experience. Posting sweaty gym selfies and bike pics with the hashtag boss mode," I cut in. He winced. "I'm serious, Raquel. This is a chance to build something together." Together. The same person who hadn't answered a single message about my loan for 4.5 months. The same one who used my tools behind my back. The one who blocked me from taking my own property. I crossed my arms. "No," I said, calm, clear, final. "I'm not hiring." His expression cracked. "You can't be serious right now," he said. "I came here like a man, tried to make peace, and this is what you do? Act all high and mighty because you got a garage?" "I'm acting like someone who learned her lesson," I said. He scoffed. "Wow, so you think you're better than me now?" "No," I said. "I think I'm done pretending we're on the same team." He laughed, but it was sharp, defensive. "You forgot where you came from." I stepped forward until he had to tilt his head up to meet my eyes. "No," I said quietly. "I remember exactly where I came from, and I'm not going back." That hit him. It showed. He swallowed, looked away, scratched the back of his neck like he wanted to peel off his own skin. "Whatever," he muttered. "You'll regret this. Family always comes around." Then he turned and walked away. Fast, shoulders stiff, like he was trying to outrun his own humiliation. I closed the door and locked it behind him without another word. The next weekend, while I was reorganizing socket sets, a notification popped up on my phone. A message from Riley. "Heads up, they're having a family meeting about you tonight. It's dramatic." I blinked. I didn't respond. I didn't care. Because for the first time in my life, their drama wasn't my responsibility. Instead, I spent the night working on a custom shelving unit for the garage. I put music on, something loud and freeing, and let sawdust coat my jeans like glitter that made sense. By midnight, the shelving stood finished against the east wall, straight, strong, level. Every measurement perfect, every screw tight, everything exactly where I wanted it. I wiped my forehead with the back of my hand and looked around the garage. My garage. No basements, no moldy mattresses, no guilt disguised as generosity, no Darren, no June. Just me. The next morning, I opened my phone and saw it. A 14-paragraph Facebook post from June. Public, long, flourishing. A dramatic saga about ungrateful youth and the tragedy of forgotten sacrifices. She called me a lost soul led astray by pride. I didn't finish reading it. I scrolled right past it and blocked her. Then I blocked Darren. Then I blocked the entire family group chat, one by one, like turning off lights in a house I no longer lived in. The quiet afterward wasn't emptiness. It was freedom. Weeks passed. My business doubled, then tripled. Clients recommended me to friends. I hired a part-time assistant. I ordered new uniforms. I sanded and painted the office walls myself, bright, clean, sharp white. One day I looked up at the corkboard and saw the 3 pinned papers again. The $2,000 loan transfer, the $4,000 sale receipt, the deed to my property, and that little yellow sticky note beneath them. Never let guilt steal what you earned. That note wasn't just a reminder. It was a promise. To the 15-year-old girl sleeping in a cold, damp basement. To the 22-year-old woman buying her first tool chest with scraped-together tips. To the 29-year-old finally choosing herself over inherited obligation. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their gratitude. I didn't need their version of family. I had rebuilt myself. And I had built a life worth protecting. The kind of life that said, I got here because I refused to shrink. And I'm not shrinking for anyone ever again.